Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today is going to be a different video from what I normally do on my channel, but it's going to be the first of a series of videos basically brought to you by Torklift. Torklift, I had reached out to Torklift about their products after recently purchasing a slide-in truck box camper. I had no idea how many accessories and parts that you really need to secure a truck box camper to a truck. And again, just like everything else, you got good, better, best. If you have followed me for a while, you kind of know that I like to kind of go right to the top in the beginning of things rather than waste time and money on lesser quality items. So real quick, I reached out to Torklift about their products after doing a few weeks of research on all different companies that make products to basically tie your camper to the truck. After finding Torklift and what they had to offer, I was just blown away with what they offer. Not only what they offer, but the quality of how they're made, quality of how they work. And some of these items, which I'm going to cover later in some other videos, you buy a major piece and then the other pieces, once you have the major piece, build off of that one piece, making everything easier, simpler, and just better. So today's video, I'm going to be installing Torklift's North front receiver hitch. It's one of the items that they've already sent me. This item was provided to me from Torklift, which I'm greatly appreciative for. So I guess I will say that this video is sponsored by Torklift. So let's go over the hitch and kind of what's involved in installing it and the hardware. All right, so this is my 2015 Ford F350 Super Duty. Crew cab, long box, dually, four-wheel drive. None of that stuff really matters. Basically, this is the hitch. It's a very simple bolt-on product. I've actually put something similar on to my previous tow rig, my Excursion. And that thing came in handy a few times. And now that I'm going to be doing a truck box camper in the future for out-of-town off-roading trips, this front hitch is going to come in very handy. All right, so I'll say that the hitch was sent to me in a very nice box, very secure, tape, staples, everything. Everything just was packaged very well. On top of that, all the hardware came in a nice bag. Everything's here. Everything's accounted for. So that made it very nice. And then you have their instruction packet. So I've went through this real quick. I'm going to go through it one more time here. Basically, they're saying the hitch can basically go on without taking the front bumper off. But I know how easy these front bumpers are to take off, so I think taking the bumper off is going to make everything that much easier anyway. So that's the route I'm going to take. So I'm going to go ahead and take the front bumper off this truck, and then we'll move on from there. All right, so on the front of the truck, basically got two 18mm bolts on this side, two 18mm bolts on that side, and then there's a bracket right here on both sides with 13mm. So I'm gonna go ahead and take those out. All right, just like that, super easy. Total of 4 bolts come right out. And also there's this rubber flap, which will separate from the bumper with 1, 2, 3 little Christmas trees. So now let's refer back to the instructions and see where we are at. All right, so I got all the hardware laid out. Nuts, bolts, washers, all that stuff right here. Going through the instructions one last time. Basically, they make no mention of removing the front bumper at all. Just basically remove some brackets that are in the way, which my particular truck did not have these style brackets on the bumper. So no big deal. And then along with that, rubber flap on some of the upper end models, there are some electrical harnesses to watch out for as well. And then me living in Michigan, we don't have front license plates, so I don't have a front license plate bracket to take off myself either. So, moving on. So using my Harbor Freight Badlands jack, I was able to easily lift the bumper up and slide it over the frame rails on both sides. So that made that super easy. So basically, once it's slid up there, you'll see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 holes per side that correspond to holes on the frame. Again, same on both sides. So let's see what hardware we need first. So they list the corresponding holes, hole A through D, on the hitch and the frame. And the first hardware that we want to install is in spot hole C, sorry. So hole C is basically one of these long 1/2-inch bolts, a star washer, and a square piece of square washer. And then we'll loop that onto one of these wire pulls. And then on the outside will be a washer, lock washer, and a nut. Let me get those started on both sides. All right, so this right here is a perfect example of why I said I was going to take the front bumper off. Taking the front bumper off literally takes not even a minute and a half. So again, I have a little bit of experience with this style front end from a previous truck, so I knew it would come off quick. So this right here, I'm going to show you why, in my opinion, spend the minute and a half, 2 minutes, take the front bumper off, and save yourself probably 10, 15, 20 minutes depending. All right, so imagine with the front bumper on, these tow hooks come through these areas here. So to reach, if I was to try to reach through that front bumper and try to get my hands on these holes, I'm gonna probably assume I can't, which is why these wire fishers are included. Basically, you can fish the end of the wire, if I can grab it, through the bumper or underneath the bumper and get it to those holes to pull the hardware through, which does work, and lots of things are done that way. But now we're kind of relying on, hopefully that star washer will catch the head so that we can tighten the nut from the outside. This way, I can just put 19 millimeter 3/4 wrench right on the bolt and tighten it down 100%, no problem. And I can reach this one and the far back one, no issue. And I have rather large hands. I was able to easily put my hand down the frame rail to get the hardware through the frame. So I'll call that a little pro tip. Take the front bumper off, and it'll save you. I would probably say it would save you almost a half hour of frustration trying to get those 2 on this side and 2 on that side through and tightened. Forgot to mention, I know I covered on location C, you got the bolt, the star washer, that black square spacer metal, because these back 2 holes are oval, so that way it gives you a nice round hole. Anyway, location C and D on both sides require the longer bolts with those black square spacers, as the rear holes are both oval, the front holes are both round. All right, so what I did is I used my off-road jack here because it's extra tall, and then lift it up from the rear of the bracket just to make sure that the hitch is going up nice and square to the frame. Tightened up these front two, and then I put the jack on this side, did the same thing, and then I went ahead and tightened the back two bolts on each. So I initially did put a 3/4 inch wrench inside the frame pocket to hold the head, to tighten them down. But I will say that on this side, just for giggles, I just started tightening down the outside nut with the impact, and those star washers definitely do bite the head of the bolt and the frame, and I didn't have to use a wrench. So those star washers really did surprise me. So super cool. And at this point, basically the bumper is almost ready to install. They send 3 zip ties with the kit. So where this flap Christmas trees to the bumper, basically you remove those Christmas trees, and then you have the flap to the hitch, and you'll put a zip tie around through each hole around the hitch. All right, one little thing I noticed here real quick is, again, remember I was talking about there's three push pins that held this flap to the bumper, and like I said, they provide 3 zip ties. So I put the outer zip ties on, no big deal, but I looked all around this hitch, and there's no hole directly in the center for a zip tie to go to that center hole on the flap. Not a big deal, but I did notice that there is a little, if I can stick something through here, these back corners, there's a hole. So I just went ahead and drilled myself a hole on each side to attach a zip tie here and here. All right, so now there's 4 zip ties each side, and then 2 in the center. All right, so taking it off, you don't have to worry about much. You undo the bolts, and the bumper will just rest on the front tow hooks. So once it's resting, then you can just pull it off, no big deal. So putting it back on, I set it back on the truck, letting it rest on the tow hooks. Then I found it easy to go ahead and put the 2 13mm bolts in the side brackets first, just to kind of hold the bumper in place. And then once the bumper was held in place side to side, I used my off-road jack here again to lift the bumper up. And then behind the front bolts is a captured nut bracket that sits behind the bracket and bumper, and then the 2 nuts, or bolts, sorry. So I just, like I said, held it up with the jack, reached up with the one hand holding the captured nut plate, and then started those 2 nuts, or bolts, sorry. Do the same thing on this side. Then I'll start tightening it down, making sure that my bumper gaps are equal on both sides. All right, she's all done. Overall, start to finish, if I wasn't taking videos, etc., this is probably only took me 35 minutes, 35 minutes at the max. So an hour or so average, not a big deal. So now we can kind of see if the bumper was left on. This is all metal on the bumper. There's no way to reach inside the frame rail. So that's where the little metal fisher wires come in handy. So you would put your bolt and stuff on here and feed this stuff through. But I mean, imagine trying to get this little wire in the tube and then somehow finding the hole and going outward to pull everything through. So like I said, I highly recommend just pull the front bumper off. I think it would save the average person a lot of frustration. So that's just my little pro tip. So if you do live in a state where you have to have a front plate, this is included with the front hitch. It's a front license plate bracket that'll slide in the tube. It's pretty nice. It had like a little magnetic. So you push this thing in here, and it's magnetic, so anti-rattle. And then you put a hitch pin through, and then there's your front plate. I imagine you can turn it one way or the other. Let's see. It fits both ways. I don't know if it makes a difference on height or not, but. And then they also include the hardware for that. You got washers, lock nuts, and bolts to bolt your license plate to that. And you're all set. And then you just pull your pin, remove the bracket, and use your accessory. So like I've already said, I live in Michigan. We don't have front license plates, so I will not have to use that. So I'm happy about that. I'm not going to keep this pin in here either, but that's just for demonstration purposes. So what am I going to use this for? So what am I going to use the front hitch for? Well, on a previous vehicle, I had a Ford Excursion. There was a time or two where I needed to, I've hauled bicycles, and then there was a time or two where I had to bring a generator, and I had a heavy duty cargo basket that the generator fit in, and it worked out perfect. Again, it was a Ford Excursion, so I didn't have a truck bed just to throw the generator in. The back is your interior with carpet and all that stuff. And then my travel trailer at the time did not have a strong enough bumper to have a load like that hanging off the back of the RV. So on the new truck though, with the truck box camper, every time I use that, I'm going to be towing my off-road Explorer here, and that's going to be on a trailer. So my trailer hitch in the back of the truck will be utilized. So Torklift will be sending me out more products. They have a lock and load front cargo basket. It's not your typical like 4-foot long basket. It's much smaller. I don't remember the dimensions off the top of my head, but it's designed to use or to hold a standard smaller ultra quiet generator for camping. So that will be sent as well, and I'll be doing a future video on that. And then as far as having the truck camper in the bed of the truck and towing the Explorer on my trailer, there is going to be some more videos on that stuff too. It's called a Super Truss. And at that time, or a video before that, I will cover what I initially purchased for my truck before reaching out to Torklift, and cover all that stuff as well. So, like I said, keep an eye out for a series of videos on all of the Torklift products. Again, I am very gracious to Torklift for sending me out these products and basically sponsoring me. So I will do my best to post pictures, videos, installs, and then down the road, after I use everything for a while, I'll definitely be doing some reviews. So shout out to Torklift, and if you're not familiar with their products, check out their websites. And stay tuned. Like, comment, subscribe if you're not, and look for all these videos coming in the future. Thank you.